Hi, I'm Greg, the upholsterer here at Redline Watersports. Today I want to go over some of the services that we offer as an independent boat dealer. That in-house having an upholstery shop really sets us apart from our competition. So a couple of things that we do here at Redline is we offer services, whether it's a warranty replacement cover, like this observer seat right here, or a general repair on a cover like this right here, where we were able to cover one portion and the other portion was still in great shape. So we were able to match materials for that one. Whereas another one might be a cut and sew that we have to pair old materials, vinyls that are from boats that are potentially 20 plus years old, that may also have some damage within in the foam or the actual substrate, where we're able to repair that and get it brought up to par with the rest of your boat. So some of these are the services that we offer. We do have some other ones as well, being able to do minor repairs to bimini covers, different things, but we offer a variety of things that we do here in-house for the upholstery department. Got a variety of manufacturers for different kinds of vinyls or other materials that we might use, leather, carpeting, you name it. We do a whole lot here when it comes to that. But today I really want to focus on some of what it looks like to go through and actually do a cover for a cushion that needs some repairs, as well as is getting a whole new kind of look. All right, so like I said before, what we're going to do is focus on this rear wraparound cushion that I'm going to recover. Now, this cushion came to us, and the conversation with the client ultimately led us down the path that we were going to recover the entire cushion in one material, rather than trying to duplicate this aged material that we weren't able to find a vendor for. Sometimes materials just are too old and we're not able to find the exact replacement. However, we can always kind of come to other options that may be very similar to what it is that you have in the rest of your boat that you want to go with. Either way, we've got a lot of variety of options, and so we're here to try to make whatever we can work for you. Ultimately, we decided on making this one solid color, removing the portion down here, and also the Mastercraft logo they were not too worried about replacing. And so what we're going to do is get to work with the process. It's kind of a multi-step process. The first portion usually looks like taking all the staples and hardware off, ultimately marking and indicating lines on the pattern so that we're able to duplicate from that. And then after that, get to work separating the pieces, creating a stencil or a pattern that we can then transfer onto the new vinyl, and then ultimately sew that together, creating the finished product that we then install and recover your cushion. In the meantime, there could be some steaming that's going on with the foam to rehabilitate it. There could be any minor repairs necessary on damaged foam, or even substrate that could be underneath that's cracked or breaking and ultimately won't hold up to the the new cover's time frame. So what I'm going to do right now is get to work on removing all these staples. And something this large, there could be as many as 700 staples. It just depends on who had their hands on it before we get a hold of it. But I'm going to get to work on removing these staples and then come back and kind of explain some of what I've already pre-done with the alignment marks. And so I'm going to get to work on that, and when we come back, I'll show you what that looks like. All right, thanks for joining me back. Now, got done removing all the staples from this very large wraparound cover, and it just goes to show you, here is a good amount of the staples. I didn't even save all of them. If I had to guess, there's probably close to 800 staples in this, and thankfully that's not the typical. But these larger pieces, rear wraparound, sometimes the large rear engine covers, even the large motor boxes, those can be extremely time consuming. In fact, taking the staples out tends to be probably at least 25% of the process in general. So it's a fairly involved portion of the actual overall process for doing covers. But once we get done getting all the staples out, then I go to town making alignment marks on the covers, because what that does is it gives me an orientation for which, when I sew things together, seams line up, pleats go where they're supposed to, all the intended portions of the actual cover come together the way they're designed. So I go ahead and I make these alignment marks to give me that sense of direction and help. After that, usually I'll get the cover off and I'm able to inspect what's underneath. And this is where I can determine whether or not the foam is of good enough condition to just be rehabilitated through steam and or a couple of different other options. But it also helped me determine whether or not it's actually even replaceable, because some of the cushion may be damaged beyond just simply rehabilitation. And so that's where I determine if there's any additional work. Substrate could also have some damage. Some of the plastics can crack or break. Some of the wood, depending on the age of the boat, can wear out and no longer hold staples anymore. So we may need to replace that with some newer materials. Ultimately, what I like to do at this point, I've got the steamer going over here, is to just kind of illustrate how much life you can get out of some of these old covers, these old cushions, just by adding some steam to it. Hopefully that shows up for you guys there. It looks to me like it's foaming up just nicely, but I'll spend time doing this size. A cushion this size could take me maybe 25 minutes or so to really give it a thorough steaming, and then ultimately try to get as much of that moisture back out of it. But it breathes life back into the cushion, and once that's done, I'm able to get myself set up for going and ultimately plotting out the new material with this old pattern. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get to work cutting this apart, getting it prepped for laying out and doing the patterning and the templating for the new cover. So I've completely disassembled my cushion cover at this point, separated all the pieces out, tried to make any notations I saw necessary. This particular cover didn't have anything other than some top stitching. Sometimes you might have covers that have welting or particular positions where they might anchor down to create pleats or separate portions of a cover. So I've gone ahead and done the notations on my covers, my portions of the cover. And so right now what I'm going to do is actually create the stencil or the template for the next piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go around the perimeter of each of these different pieces here and make a little tick mark at 1/2 inch seam allowance. And this is what I'm going to be using as the foundation for what I'm sewing my seams at. So I'm going to go ahead and trace out all of these cover pieces, creating their salvage portion, and then I'll cut them all out, and then I will notch the alignment marks. And so the importance of all of this process is really the difference between a cover that fits very nicely versus it might have some puckering or pulling, just obvious spots that the cover didn't go together the way that it came apart. So making sure the seam allowance is correct is important. Making sure the alignment marks are there is important. Overall, it's just the attention to detail that I try to make every part of every cushion that I cover, or any part of the projects that I do, just to make sure that I get the absolute best fitment for the application. So I'm going to go ahead and finish drawing in the seam allowance on all these and notating all of the alignment marks, and then I'm going to get to work cutting those out before we sew them all together. All right, I wanted to take a moment to actually stop at this point. I've got all my pattern pieces cut out, and you can see they're laid out on this pink material here. It's actually a scrim foam that we use to line the back of all the pieces. Sometimes boats, depending on how old they are, what make or model they are, the manufacturer may have not chose or have chosen to use a scrim foam type back vinyl. But in this case, that was the application, so we try to stay consistent with what the manufacturer originally had spec'd. Sometimes it's a rare instance where the foam itself might not be totally bad, but ultimately there's a lot of life that's been kind of zapped out of it, and so the scrim foam on the back actually helps to kind of restore that, fills in the cracks, the crevices, and it really just fills out the entire cushion cover to make it look as good as it can. So at this point, I'm gonna get to work cutting these out as well, sewing those on the back, and then we'll get started on sewing. All right, wrapping up. Got this cover made, installed, all stapled up. Took the better part of a day. A little bit of wrinkling and puckering left in the corners here that I'll probably work out with a final steam, but ultimately the sun and water and fun will do that as well. So just to let you know, kind of summarizing, whether it's a custom cut and sew job like this, a warranty skin, or a prefabbed cover, ultimately we've got you taken care of, and we want to get you out on the water looking fresh. So give us a call, stop in, we'll take a look at what you got and see what we can't do to get you fixed up. Thank you and have a good day.